Hey everybody, this is GGB and co-host Peppers, and today we're going to be getting into yet another episode of College Basketball Upset of the Day. I hope you guys are excited. Today we have a very good slate of Big Ten, American, WCC, and Mountain West basketball to get to you, but let's go over what happened yesterday in the SEC. As many of you know, there was one game. Tennessee was facing South Carolina, and South Carolina, as many of us predicted, lost this game, and Tennessee ended up pulling out the victory, moving it to 4th place in the SEC behind Alabama, Arkansas, and LSU. And if you were going to tell me that was the top 3 in the SEC this year, I would have maybe believed LSU, but dang, this is a crazy year in the SEC. But you move on to the Big 12. Kansas won last night, putting them in 2nd place, believe it or not. In the Big 12, Oklahoma was unable to schedule a game against Texas since it was canceled due to the snowstorms. And unfortunately for them, that resulted in Kansas passing them. And that was unfortunate for really everyone below them. Texas and West Virginia all ended up moving down a spot. So that's really all that happened in the Big 12 yesterday. Now you move on to the Pac-12. There was just not that much happening over here. You had USC playing Arizona State, but other than that, USC obviously beat Arizona State, as many predicted. Not me, this was my upset of the day, but it wasn't all that close, and there wasn't any upsets yesterday, so half a point for Eli. 2 points so far this week, and I have a chance. I need to get to 4 points, so let's hope my upset hits today. Nothing really happened other than that. USC stays in 1st place. Arizona State stays ahead of Washington State, but below Oregon State. Then you move on to the Missouri Valley Conference. This was the only one that was pretty close to an upset yesterday. Valparaiso played a very good game, very close game against Loyola, Illinois. Just was unable to pull it out. So that was unfortunate for a team like Drake, who really wanted to get in 1st place. And that's unfortunate for Valparaiso because they could have. They could have moved up with a win. Not really moved up, but they would have been tied with Evansville in conference record. So I mean, that's something. But let's move into what happens today. There are 3 ranked Big Ten teams playing today. We have 4 ranked Big Ten teams playing today. We have number 11, Iowa, traveling to number 21, Wisconsin, at 6 o'clock. 7 o'clock, we have number 4, Ohio State, traveling to Penn State. Remember, last time they had trouble with Penn State, so that's something to watch for. And at 8 o'clock, we have Rutgers traveling to number 3, Michigan. So let's go over what would happen within a win and a loss for each team. Now, AFC, many of you know Wisconsin and Iowa are playing it since they just went over it. They're the first game. Wisconsin, with a win, moves to 4th place because Iowa would lose. And with a Iowa win, they stay in 4th place. So this game is for 4th place in the Big Ten right now. Now, if you're a Purdue fan, you're a huge Iowa fan, because if Iowa wins this basketball game instead of Wisconsin, Wisconsin falls to 9-7, and you can pass Wisconsin for 5th place. That's your ideal situation if you're a Purdue fan. Same if you're a Rutgers fan. You want Wisconsin to lose, therefore you both have the same in-conference record. They would have the tiebreaker better overall record, but you'd be very close to Wisconsin then. That's your ideal scenario after tonight is an Iowa win. Now, if you're an Ohio State, Illinois, Michigan fan, you really want a little bit of wiggle room, and you probably want Wisconsin to win this basketball game. Now, again, I was only like about a game behind Ohio State and about 2 games behind Illinois, so there's not that many games left, but you'd want a little bit of wiggle room, and Wisconsin would provide you with that if they were to win this basketball game. So that's the Iowa-Wisconsin game. You go on to the Rutgers-Michigan game. Now, if Rutgers win this game over Michigan, then Michigan falls to 9-2. Still in 1st place, mind you, but still about a 2% win difference, win conference record. They have about an 80% win percentage in the conference, and if you go to Illinois, they have about a 78% win percentage. So again, Michigan would be higher than Illinois, but a win for Rutgers would really help Illinois a lot. If you're an Indiana fan, you're a huge Michigan fan tonight, because that knocks them down to 8-8, and both 500. The only difference is they've won more games. Technically, they'd be ahead of you, but very close, and Indiana would have a chance to pass them into the 7th spot very soon. That's really all that can go on in the Michigan-Rutgers game. Now, again, if you're a Purdue fan, Michigan fan tonight too. It gives you a little bit of wiggle room. Same for really everyone up there. For Michigan, Illinois, Ohio State, Iowa, Wisconsin, Purdue, probably huge Michigan fans tonight. Because I think all Iowa fans really have admitted that they're not going to get first place in the Big Ten already. So they just really want the wiggle room, and that's what a Rutgers loss would provide. Now you move on to the Penn State-Ohio State game. Now if you're Illinois, you'd really want Ohio State off your tail, which really they're about half game behind since Illinois has an 11-3 record, Ohio State has an 11-4 record. If they win and you lose, they take second place. So obviously you want a little bit of wiggle room. So you're a pretty big Nittany Lions fan tonight if you're the Fighting Illini. If you look at it, if you're a Michigan State fan, you're actually an Ohio State fan tonight. Penn State would pass Michigan State with a win today. And if you're Minnesota, same thing. I'd be a huge Ohio State proponent because Minnesota, they play Minnesota in the future. Minnesota doesn't have a great schedule. Neither does Penn State moving forward. But it's going to be interesting. I think it's a very interesting opportunity for Penn State. Penn State could get another quality win under their resume. If they win out, I feel like they're in the tournament. But the problem is winning out is they have a pretty tough record moving forward. So that's something to look for. If you actually look at it, I think Penn State can move up a spot, obviously. They can move up 2 spots if Wisconsin loses on Sunday, I think is when they play next, or Saturday. They play on Saturday, February 20th against Illinois, so that's going to be interesting. Chance to lose there, and Penn State has a chance to beat Iowa on Sunday. So with those two chain of events happening, Penn State would pass Minnesota. So if you're a Penn State fan, obviously you're pretty excited that you can move up into the 10th place. So that's what you're hoping for tonight, is a win over Ohio State. Nothing really else can help you. Now you move on to the American basketball. There's one huge game going on, actually, and it determines who's going to be first place in the American. I did the math, and if Houston loses this game against Wichita State would obviously get another win. Houston would have a loss, and Wichita State takes first place in the American with a win today. So huge game for the Shockers. Now, if you're a Memphis fan, it'd be nice if Houston could knock Wichita State down a peg. You'd have the same in-conference record, and they'd only have a 12-5 overall record. You'd have a 12-6 overall record, so it would be very close. So that's one way to look at it. So if you're a Memphis fan, pretty huge supporter of Houston tonight. If you're a Wichita State fan, obviously you're a fan of yourself tonight, and you can take control of the American, which is very impressive the way it's going. I think the American is up for grabs at least a little bit with Wichita State playing it as well as they are. Now, if you look at the West Coast Conference, you have Gonzaga playing St. Mary's. Now, the likelihood is that Gonzaga runs away with this basketball game, and they are favored by 20.5 points, so it is a likely scenario. But if St. Mary's hangs in there, pulls off the win, what would happen? If you're a St. Mary's fan, you're following 2 basketball games tonight. Obviously your own. You have a chance to beat Gonzaga, which is pretty impressive, pretty huge. But also you're following another game tonight. Pacific is playing BYU, and if Pacific loses that one, you can move up a spot, which doesn't seem huge, but it is. It's pretty huge. You can move past Pacific. Then you'd be pretty close to Santa Clara, San Francisco. A win would put you at 500. You pass San Fran and pass Santa Clara. So there is a lot of what good that comes tonight if you are St. Mary's and you do win this basketball game. But again, it's unlikely. And really all Gonzaga is playing for, they pretty much have the 1 seed locked up if you actually look at their schedule. If they lose their next 2 games, they're still taking first place in the WCC. So really this is all about rank standings in the tournament. So if you actually go, the last one, Mountain West, San Diego State is playing Fresno State. And if you look at it, nothing is changing no matter what happens today. If San Diego State wins this game, that's an if, they move to 10-3. That's still worse than Utah State's 11-3 in conference record. If they lose the game, they fall to 9-4, but still not worse than Nevada's 9-5 in conference record. Now, if Nevada was to win their next game, which is not tonight, it's on Friday against Utah State, then Nevada would be able to pass San Diego State. But I mean, that's not a huge probability. Plus, if Fresno State wins today, what did they get? They're at 8-7. That still is not good enough to pass Nevada, and 7-8 is not bad enough to fall behind UNLV. So nothing really changes in the Mountain West tonight after this game. So who does GGB think is going to pull off the upset today? And I'm actually going to go with it's going to be an easy team to pick. I'm picking number 21, Wisconsin, traveling to number 11. number one, they get home field advantage against Iowa, right? And I picked against Iowa last week. That did not work out well. Iowa ended up playing extremely well, ended up winning that game. If you look at it, Iowa played an extremely put-together game against Michigan State. But again, it's Michigan State. Actually, I picked Rutgers, and they played a very good game against Rutgers. That was the game I was thinking of. They have a 2-game winning streak heading into this game. But if you look at Wisconsin, they've also been playing extremely well. Even though that last loss, that was a disappointing loss to Michigan. But Michigan's a very good basketball team. I'll forgive them for that. Wisconsin has been playing extremely good basketball, and this is a team I don't want to go up against late in the season because the fact is they're put together. I mean, they might not have the most talented players in the world, like Iowa has Luka Garza, but Wisconsin's an all-senior team, really all-senior. Most of them are seniors, very experienced team, and it's a team I don't want to go up late because they can hit big shots. Those are people who are experienced in that situation a lot, especially since they go to Wisconsin and are in the tournament almost every year. But this is GGB Carlos Pepper saying adios amigos and go Badgers.